teacups, what's brewing? Welcome back to the channel and thank you for your patience. I wanted to do this yesterday, but I was having some weird internet issues. They were kind of going in and out, and I was just like, by the time I would have gotten to the point of being able to react, it was late. So I've decided, because I am running a bit late with it, instead of doing the full react, even though I do like to react to her travel vlogs, I'm just gonna do, it's probably not gonna be a condensed milk because, there was a lot, but just a recap style to try and help things out. So we've got the vlog and we've got 2 lives. So the vlog was called I Traveled Alone, Can You Guess Where? Spoiler alert, it was Thailand. More importantly than any of that, Pulpy called it. His tinfoil beret was not tinfoil, was felt. I did not believe it. I was like, she wouldn't do it alone. She'd go to Canada if she was going alone. But no, there we go. We'll talk about that in a minute. So we start the vlog in the car to the airport with her coffee. Even though it's 10 p.m, I'm going to take a sip of this because I don't want to tell you how many takes I've already done this soon into the live, but my words are not wording. She's pushing her luggage cart through the airport. And she's got one bag which looks like it's going to be checked, and she's got one of those slightly obnoxious big carry-on suitcases that are like hard shell and they fill up all the space. I'm perhaps being hard on people, but I do find them a bit much. However, she's got a big carry-on because she's got the CPAP and all the medication in there, I'm guessing, so she'd need a bit more space. Turns out she's trying Oman Air. I'm a little uncomfortable with her being within the same borders as me, but we'll move on. She gives us quite an out-of-breath clip after checking in her bag. I'm guessing she must have had to queue for a little bit because it was quite hard on her from the looks of it. She says she's going to be going from Oman to, and then cuts it off at the 2 because she's at the airport. She can't reveal it apparently. And then it goes to, I'm gonna miss you, babe. And forgive me my doubts, but we all saw how happy Salah looked when he was in the car, when he was dropping her off to Canada for what he thought was the last time. They're trying to vaguely emote affection by like him patting her shoulder, and it's not coming off well. Also not particularly convincing when he goes, I hate goodbyes, and he sounds joyous. And she's just doing like the snake route through to security, being like, I'm gonna miss you, and the pets. The pets, as much as she neglects them, have way more of her heart than Salah does. She films a couple of clips of her like walking the airport and on like the bridge to the plane. She voices over that Oman Air was okay, but doesn't sound massively impressed. She says the seats were comfortable, I'm guessing as comfortable as they get for her. And for what it's worth, the plane looks quite clean and quite new in the picture. So it looks like a nice enough thing. She says, good thing there's a middle seat free between us when she's talking about her and the next passenger. And yes, it is a good thing because clearly Chantal had no intention of buying a second seat. I did look into this because she had initially mentioned that she could pay like $80 and get an extra seat. And I think it was Emirates that was offering that maybe, or we looked because she usually flies in Emirates and they were. It does turn out that Oman Air has a MySpace service. And it's the same kind of deal where you show up and if on the day the seat next to you is free or can be made free, you can pay a fee depending on your flight. Like the amount depends on the flight, I'm guessing, to kind of block off that chair. It starts from as little as 10 Rial. I'm guessing that's for a local, like if she was going Muscat Salalah or something. It'd probably be a little bit more expensive because she was going on like a mid-range flight. But even given like a cheaper, reasonable alternative, Chantal didn't bother. And in fact, for all she knows, the nice lady sitting across from her might have booked that seat. And then she sits there, spilling over into it, and the lady doesn't want to say anything to her. We don't know. But we're at takeoff, and she's got quite a nice looking chickpea puff thing, and a cake, and a pineapple juice. All of which should be great for her sugars and cause her no problems. They seem to have had turbulence as they came into land, and Chantal was telling us about it. And she looks like she's going to shit herself more than usual. Like, she does not look happy. And I'm not saying she should in turbulence, but the concern on her face. She lands safely, but man. So she turns the camera onto herself as she's going on one of those moving walkways and she's introducing Muscat Airport. And I've got to say, there's something very on edge about her doing, like, going to transfer. And I don't know if it's just that we know it's not authentic, perhaps, because she seems a little bit shook. And it might be from the plane and the turbulence and her just being like, oh my God, oh my God. And it might just be the pressure of her having to get herself through the airport, because usually she does have help. But it comes off a little bit plastic, as it were. The excitement looks very much painted on. Okay, she's looking for gate C and she seems kind of nervous about it. And for someone who likes to say we could never be like her and oh, we all do nothing, Oman is not a hard airport to go through. Like the Muscat airport, it's a reasonably new airport. It didn't open that long ago, but it's very simply laid out. I went and got a map for you so you could see it, okay? So you can see from the front part, a lot of it is like the parking, and then you have the check-in desks, but the actual like past security part before you go to the gate is really quite simple because it's set up in straight lines. It's like an upside down T. You can go A, B, C. So when she's in this picture saying, oh, looking for gate C, I've put a little square around the front. When you actually come through security, if you're departing from Muscat, that is where you come through. And there's literally a sign that goes A, B, C, and you follow it. And that's why you've got the C, because the duty free is done in like a little double wave. So you can kind of go around and then come back to the C and what have you. But she is that far away from it. It is not a long walk. Now, to be entirely fair to her, at this moment, she doesn't know Muscat Airport and she is coming through as a transfer. Transferring from the gate itself can be a bit longer, but there's lots of those walkway things. But she did also once tell us that she likes to leave quite a long time on her transfers where she can, so that she doesn't have to rush to the airport, which is absolutely fair, especially if she's a bit of a nervous traveller by herself. And as she's going around, she's like, oh, the duty free. She's thinking of buying a lipstick at Clinique, but she's going to wait to spend her shopping money, which is interesting because it makes it sound like she has a very set budget. Like, did she just take cash to Thailand? She said, oh, I've got money, I've got reserves if I need to, but I wonder exactly what that means because I don't think she'd be trying to do the set budget if she had that much of a choice. She does a little shot of find a gate and says it's a lot of walking, which again, we're not talking very far. But anyway, she goes on to saying, oh, I'm going to talk more when I get there and to be patient to get the story of why Solara's not with her. It cuts her using a neck fan, filters set all the way up to glitter, with her saying she cannot stop sweating. This is going to be a reoccurring theme. And remember, she always says, oh, I don't really sweat. She very much does sweat. Anyone would sweat in those situations. Speaking of which, the weather has been appalling here. Like, it's not getting hotter. It's just getting thicker. You know, like you go out and it just clings to you. So I'm not surprised she's been sweating, and even though I laugh and I say the airport isn't complicated, I can bet that moving around it has been a challenge for her. Speaking of her being challenged, she nearly leaves her passport and boarding pass somewhere, and could you imagine a stranded in Oman arc? Like, oh, I don't even think there's a full Canadian embassy here. I think we've got a new member of staff and he was trying to get his driver's license converted, and he needs to take something and go get it attested at the Canadian embassy, but he said there's only a consulate here and so they have to send it to Saudi. What would she do? I guess she'd have to get some kind of emergency travel pass. But man, wedding ring who? Could you imagine? Unfortunately, the kindness of strangers means we never get to see that arc. So she's at the gate, she reveals she's going to Bangkok again. Now, I have been to Bangkok a few times, so I'm not going to say you can't go back to somewhere you enjoy. Of course you can. But now that we know she's traveling alone, there is no way she didn't plan to go alone to begin with. Because if they had planned to go together, I fully believe they would have gone somewhere they hadn't been before. If Foodie had to leave for whatever reason Foodie had to leave, then when they decided he wasn't coming with her, she chose somewhere she was already familiar with. Because do you think she's going to go somewhere new without someone by her side? I know you could argue and say, oh, she went to Kuwait, she went to Cuba. Yes, she did, but Cuba was a self-contained, all-inclusive resort. She didn't need to worry about anything then. And Kuwait, however ridiculously stupid it was for her to just rock up to Kuwait, she was planning on having someone there, and luckily it didn't end up with her dead. So she went with the intent that there'd be someone there to help her. We're on the plane again. There's no one beside her by chance or design. She sounds quite irate as she voices over that there was only one meal service in 6.5 hours. I would expect there to only be one meal service in a 6.5 hour flight. The salad has no dressing, the pasta has no cheese, the bread has no butter, but the taste was good and she was hungry, so she ate it all. Guys, I had quite a trolly thought. And when I say I laughed about it for 5 minutes after I thought it, I thought for a minute, okay, go with me. Salah, having booked the flight for her, assuming the money's gone through his account or whatever, you know, she could have just booked it herself, but let me have my fun. Could you imagine Salah booking the ticket and then for whatever reason he hasn't come, and trolling her by going into the meal options and ordering her like a diabetic, low fat, low salt halal meal? Enjoy your unseasoned chicken pieces and courgette slices with a low-fat yogurt for dessert, Chantal. I'm not saying that Salah would ever be well-liked, but if you can't be pleasant, be useful. He should do that on every flight. I still occasionally giggle when I think about it. All right, we're in the Thai airport. She got a SIM card for 1,200 baht, which is about 27 pounds, I do believe. And I'm guessing she said it's unlimited data, so I'm guessing it's a month package. From what I remember when I was in Thailand, they do have pretty good packages and they're easily available. She mentions, oh so casually and with absolutely no intent, that the tourist visa in Thailand is now 60 days instead of just being 30. I'm sure this won't be relevant later. She grabs her luggage, she sounds very much done with the process of traveling, and goes to get her ride. She's feeling quite sick. Now that doesn't stop her from ordering food when she gets to the hotel because she was literally almost starving. We then cut to 8 hours later when she's passed out after the day and she's ventured outside to get food. Now, the traffic in Bangkok is quite heavy, but there's a lot of bikes. So generally, when you have a smaller road, the way she's crossing, you just wait for a slightly calmer moment. There's no time where it absolutely stops, but you just kind of do a little bit and you weave through and the system kind of works. And unfortunately, she doesn't really have the dexterity and speed to be able to do that. She just kind of wombles a lot, and that's just how she walks. And that means she's struggling quite a lot with the road. But we make it to the 7-Eleven, which is the one true destination. They're either in exactly the same hotel they were in before or a very similar one. She remembers from the last time where everything is, and she risks death by oncoming bike to try and find the donut guy. She is vlogging while she's walking, trying to do, you know, the travel YouTuber thing. And when I tell you the people stuck behind her on their bikes do not look happy about it. They're just like, no, you're holding up traffic. She accidentally buys dish soap instead of laundry detergent at the 7-Eleven, and she gets some different medicines because she seems to be getting sick. Then we're back at the hotel, and guys, I know we talk about filters a lot, but this example is pretty egregious. Like, this is what she looked like coming in from her walk, and this is what she looked like, still filtered, but looked like on her live the next day. Remember, the second picture is still filtered. It's got the eye enlarger filter on, it's got the face thinner on, and I'm pretty sure it's still got part of the smoother on, it's just not quite up so much. And the big, very well thought out and detailed excuse for Salah having missed their Thai trip is a private last minute emergency. That's it. That's as much explanation as we get. despite the fact that she told on herself during a live, when was it? A few days ago, where she forgot Salah was traveling with her, and so she'd be fine spilling onto his seat. But anyway, let's move on. The next live was, the hat is back. She admits she's going to be here for a month or more. This won't necessarily be in order. I'm just trying to group things where I can. She'll be here for a month or more. She doesn't know exactly yet, and actually she doesn't really want to say, because later she admits that she's booked her return ticket, so she clearly does know when she's coming back. But at this point, you can't believe anything she says. She isn't going to say what the emergency was, but it was really, really last minute. And again, the kind of last minute trip stopping emergency that meant you appeared to tell on yourself days before in a live, and has left him free to not only take her to the airport, but to hang out at the airport while she checked in. Okay, sounds convincing. Later in the live, someone's kind of needling her about not being there in a crisis, and she tries coming back at them with, it's something business related actually, which was just stupid and does not help the believability of this lie. And then she gets really shifty-eyed that, you know, an emergency is not negative and he's gonna come later. He was supposed to come with her. He will, inshallah. So what are we thinking about this? I know there's different theories. You can say he either never intended to come or originally intended to and then cancelled it, but you can't say, oh, it was a last second emergency, because she clearly knew beforehand. There is a possibility, however big or small, that perhaps they were going to go together, and then if they changed their mind, they changed it earlier than this, but perhaps she changed her location to go to Thailand once they had decided to go separately. I'm not sure anymore. Any of these are equally likely and or unlikely, but she doesn't seem sure about the whole thing, and I don't think travel without him outside of Canada would have been on the cards in a million years, especially after the K-Bella stuff. She then goes on to make it worse by saying, although Salah isn't here, they've been together, because he's in the chat, they've been together watching movies online, etc. And what a way to spend your time in another country, you know? But at least you can keep on checking on him, because clearly there's no way he could text other people while pointing his phone at the TV. She said she didn't get a Temu order, but then she shows her elephant pants that she got on Temu. How many Temu orders has she got on the go right now? People are asking, why didn't she just get the elephant pants in Thailand, because they're famous for it, and it's just because she could get the size she needed on Temu. She claims she didn't say she needed 2 seats, but it happened that way. And my first thought was to accuse her of lying in terms of like her seating on the plane and stuff. But you know, check-in staff have eyes, and it's not a pleasant conversation for anyone if they have to confront her, even if they're trying to be kind about it and say that she's not going to be able to fly on the ticket she's booked because she's too big. And it does inconvenience other passengers, which leads to complaints. So I'm guessing if somebody they think is not going to be able to fit in the seat checks in and they see that there are empty seats, they can just move her to an empty seat, give her her boarding pass, and if the plane fills up, then the plane fills up, you take your chances. At the start of the live, she says she's not doing a visa run. For real, I'm not. But then gets quite edgy when someone mentions if it's a visa run, and she says, like, what would it matter? She gaslights that she's seriously curious, and is there a negative undertone? She doesn't understand. It would seriously, once again, prove that you are not married. And she very much does understand, but she can't wiggle her way out of it. So deflect, gaslight. She claims she's not under the influence, which, if true, which is questionable, will likely not remain true for long. She's not great at saying no to herself, and she did it last time she was there. So she gets the munchies later and tries to just sort of confidence her way out of it by saying, oh, I know what you're thinking. She steadfast refuses to look us in the eye of the camera, as she claims she was curious and reading up on visas, because, you know, she's known for her intellectual curiosity and her ability to process information. Of course she reads that stuff for pleasure. She says that people will like travel for a month to Laos or to Cambodia because it's right there. And Salah is in the chat again saying, you know, it's been 5 to 6 months since she last traveled and the Kuwaiti visa is only 3 months. So what do they think? And didn't we say she'd probably done a land hop like over the border quietly when she disappeared for those few days? But back to this conversation. I have watched a couple of retiree channels of people who do like purposefully country hop on a tourist visa as like a means to travel and live cheaper during retirement, because it's a thing and it's fine, and depending on where you come from it can be cheaper than keeping and running a place in your home country. And if you're retired and you wanted a chance to travel, it gives you the opportunity to visit places. The problem for Chantal is of her own making, which is because she claims she was married and not on a tourist visa, if she were properly sponsored as a dependent, there'd be no reason to be worried that she'd have to leave. I do wonder if country hopping is going to become the new normal for her though, because something about the way she was talking about things here in this part of the live makes me think that Kuwait is becoming less viable for her. And maybe with everything going on there, maybe she's worried she won't be able to stay one of these times. She does mention here that at any time a country could say, you're coming in too much, you need to lay off. So perhaps she was warned last time she came in that, you know, sometimes you can come and they can question you and they can be like, look, we're going to allow this today, but we're not going to allow it again. Now, I'm not saying it's come to that point, but with the crackdowns they're doing on immigration at the moment in Kuwait, even if she hasn't actually been warned, I think it's probably on her mind. Her health is bad, which doesn't really lend itself to that kind of lifestyle because it can be quite hard physically to be traveling all the time, I mean. But also, if we're going to talk about health, different medications are more readily available in different places. Like, I have a co-worker who needs cancer meds who can't get them on insurance in Oman because she had cancer before she got here, and they're too expensive in Oman. So every so often she takes a personal day and she goes and does like a trip to India to restock on them. So from both an immigration standpoint and a health perspective, maybe she's looking at the possibilities. Now, Thailand does have a multi-entry visa where you can come and go as many times as you want in 6 months, but one stay can't be more than 60 days. So if she did want to start hopping, she could find a couple of places that offered something like that and she could switch between them. Or if she couldn't find 2 places that offered the same terms, she could do a few countries and then, you know, every 2 months go into Thailand. The last live was live in Bangkok, and I have to admit, I did watch Just Saying's cut down of this. It was getting late. It's 10:30, friends. She goes live in a coffee shop. She's planning on hitting up the 7-Eleven, of course, and the pharmacy because she's still not well. She says her blood sugar is down to 8, and when she was eating bad, it was back up to 13. Remember, she wasn't measuring her blood sugar for us for a while there. But imagine, like, it went up to 13, which is scary, but on a scale of Chantal is not so bad. But that's while on the host of diabetic medication she's on. Like, she is actually medicating now, so the idea of her sugar getting up that high is quite concerning. She says her budget is about 1,200 baht a day, which is a decent amount for Thailand, but she seems most excited by, like, do you know how much food you can eat for that much money every day? I'm sure we're about to find out, but if she has to start, you know, adding weed to the bill, I think it's going to spiral. She walks down the street and films. I really wish she'd get a gimbal just so we could have a nice smooth view. She stops at a fruit store, nearly gets hit by a bike because she's not staying over on the edge far enough. But she is struggling a lot to move in the humidity. Again, it's something I sympathise with. Today was a struggle. She's back at the apartment with her food from 7-Eleven. We see she still needs to return the dish soap despite having just been in the store. And her suitcase is still just on the sofa, presumably not unpacked, despite the fact that she is planning a long-term stay. She mentioned she gets her medication in Kuwait 2 months at a time, which would actually make sense because then she wouldn't need to explain why she was staying longer. I don't think the doctor would really care. They wouldn't check in the appointment how long she was staying or what visa she was on. But if she says, okay, 2 months of medication, then she could feasibly be on a tourist visa and it would be fine. How long has she been on the medication now, though? Has she had to explain it that often if she's getting months at a time? I don't feel like it's been that long, but I don't know if it would matter. Given that she pays privately, I'm not sure it would matter regardless. Because if you're paying for it, you're paying for it. Someone mentions the cheap dental care in Thailand and she said she doesn't need it. Yeah, it's your choice. There are worse things to put your money towards in Thailand. Speaking of spending money on worse things, she says going over budget is not a big deal because she has her own money. She has reserves just in case. But she likes to challenge herself with what she can spend. So, of course, her purchase of a fake nose ring, because apparently she's 14, was a necessary and important purchase. She said she got some cute clothes, but that Salah is going to bring the Temu stuff. I wonder how few clothes she has left, all told. Because she's wearing like a top and those elephant pants, and then she wears them again the next day. And if she knows that, if she's confident Salah's going to turn up, she knows he's going to bring the Temu stuff, so why would you need to spend your money on the clothes? Unless she really just has barely anything. This is when she confirmed she had her return ticket already and she wasn't going to go to the hassle of changing it. She checks the hotel laundry price and says no, she'll go to the laundrette, or Salah will go when he gets there. Again, hopeful thinking. I think she's just going to keep buying clothes. Her and Salah are in frequent communications, they watch movies, etc. And then remembering that she lied about an emergency, says, oh, he has other things he's busy with, but it doesn't take hours and hours. So the kind of very convenient emergency then. She does say it's healthy to get away from each other, and whether she says this quite soon after or if it's a shady bit of cut-in from just saying. But she also goes, yep, when someone asks if he still has to show her where he is at all time. Very healthy relationship. Okay, and with that, I am more or less up to date, and we will have to see what happens next. Okay, everyone, it's late. I'm going to try and get this edited, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.